Let me tell you something, America. There comes a time when enough is enough. And I'm standing here today not as a celebrity, not as a billionaire, not even as a woman who's been blessed beyond her wildest dreams, but as a human being with a heart that beats for justice, for decency, and for the truth. And when I heard that former President Donald J. Trump had the audacity, the nerve to look into the eyes of this new digital world and demand that Microsoft, Google, and the giants of our time stop hiring in India, my soul shook. When Donald Trump stepped onto that platform and declared, bold as brass, that American tech giants like Microsoft and Google should stop hiring in India, something in me snapped, because I knew, like so many of you knew, that this wasn't just a policy idea. This wasn't about jobs or protecting American workers or even patriotism. This was about fear. The kind of fear that creeps into the soul when someone feels power slipping through their fingers. The kind that looks for an easy target, an outsider to blame when the real work, the honest work of building, educating, and expanding opportunity feels just too hard. And once again, he reached for the same tired playbook, blame the foreign worker, point fingers at the companies embracing global cooperation, and pretend it's all in the name of America first. But let me tell you something real, something honest, something deeply human. There is no strength in shutting the door on the world. There is no greatness in building walls around ideas. When Trump said stop hiring in India, he wasn't lifting up the American dream, he was shrinking it. Because every time we allow that kind of rhetoric to go unchallenged, we teach our children that inclusion is a threat, not a strength. We send a message that our greatness must be protected by fear rather than fueled by hope. And that is not the America I know. Now I want you to close your eyes and imagine this. A young girl in Chennai, sitting cross-legged in a dimly lit room, tapping away on a second-hand laptop, teaching herself to code. Her parents have sacrificed everything so she could have that chance. And across the world, in a small town in Indiana, another young girl is doing the same thing, dreaming of solving problems, building something beautiful, changing the world. Are we really going to pretend that only one of them deserves to rise? That only one deserves opportunity? That only one deserves to be seen? You see, this isn't a war between American workers and Indian talent. That's the illusion. That's the manipulation. What we are really facing is a test of vision, a test of whether we believe the world can rise together or whether we think the only way for us to win is for someone else to lose. And that brings me to something Trump has never seemed to understand. Indian excellence, its work ethic, its innovation, its brilliance is not a threat, it's a gift. Because here's what the world knows, even if Trump refuses to say it out loud, India is not some passive participant in the digital revolution. India has been a lifeline. When Silicon Valley stumbled, India picked up the slack. When global corporations needed minds that could think fast, think smart, and think outside the box, they turned not just to Harvard or Stanford, but to the IITs, to the startups rising out of Bangalore, to the data scientists building algorithms in Mumbai. They turned to India, not because it was cheap, but because it was brilliant. And I have sat with these young Indian developers, these visionaries. I've looked them in the eye and seen what burns behind that brilliance, resilience, the kind that comes from a long history of doing more with less, the kind that comes from having to prove yourself twice as hard, climb twice as high, just to be seen as equal. They're not just writing code, they're writing history. And when we tell companies not to hire them, not to embrace their talent, what we are really saying is we are afraid of your strength. That kind of thinking doesn't honor American workers, it weakens them. Because true strength is never found in limitation, it's found in expansion. And yet Trump keeps selling this fantasy that American companies somehow owe their loyalty only to American borders, as if the internet has borders, as if software has a passport, as if the products we use every single day, from the phone in your hand to the cloud that stores your memories, weren't built by teams that span continents, time zones, and cultures. When a company like Google hires in India, they're not betraying America. They are building a global ecosystem, one that includes all of us. And when Trump tries to force these companies to abandon that global vision, what he's really doing is trying to drag the future back into the past. Because here's the truth that Trump doesn't want to say out loud. These companies didn't become giants by thinking small. They became what they are because they dreamed big, and they understood that brilliance knows no borders. They knew that to lead the future, they couldn't rely on nationalism. They had to rely on excellence, wherever it came from. And that's what we need to keep our eyes on. Not the noise of fear, but the vision of unity. Now I know some of you are wondering, what about American workers? Don't they deserve to thrive too? Yes, they do. And that's exactly why we must keep the global doors open. Because when we collaborate across cultures, when we invest in all talent, domestic and international, we grow together, we sharpen each other, we inspire each other. That's what greatness looks like. And that brings us right to the next truth we need to face head on. If we allow politics to dictate how companies build their teams, we're not just risking talent, we're risking the soul of innovation itself. Because corporate giants are not just economic engines, they are moral compasses for the future. And the choices they make in this moment, whether to follow Trump's demands or stand tall for global unity, will define not just their brand, but our humanity. And that's where I need you to walk with me now, not just as listeners, not just as viewers, but as witnesses to this truth. Because when Donald Trump tries to muscle these companies, when he tells Microsoft, Google, Amazon, Meta to stop hiring in India, he's not just playing politics, he's attempting to control the soul of the digital revolution. He wants to dictate where minds are allowed to shine. But these aren't just business decisions, these are moral choices. These companies are not just corporations, they are global forces shaping the lives of billions. Think about that. Every line of code written in India, every engineering problem solved overnight by teams across continents, every product update rolling out simultaneously to phones in Nairobi, New York, and New Delhi, that's not outsourcing. That's collaboration. That's the future. And for someone like Trump to stand up and call for that to stop, that isn't bold. That's cowardly. It's narrow-minded. And it's deeply, deeply dangerous. Because when you start dictating who's allowed to participate in progress, you begin dismantling the very foundation of what made companies like Google possible. Let's not forget, Google wasn't born in a vacuum. It rose out of diversity. Sergey Brin, a Russian immigrant. Sundar Pichai, born in India, leading the company with grace and genius. Microsoft, led by Satya Nadella, another Indian-born innovator. Are we now supposed to pretend that these men are somehow un-American? That their vision, their leadership, their success stories don't belong on American soil? This is the part that burns, that stings. Trump wants to enjoy the fruit of global labor. He wants the innovation, the breakthroughs, the stock market spikes, but he doesn't want to honor the people who made it possible. He wants the success without the story, and that's not just wrong, that's immoral. You see, when you erase where brilliance comes from, you erase its humanity. And I don't care what office you've held, if you can't recognize that brilliance has no nationality, then you have no business leading in the 21st century. The iPhone you hold in your hand, the AI in your car, the cloud keeping your business afloat, those weren't built by one person in one country. They were built by a symphony of minds. And when Trump says stop hiring in India, what he's really saying is stop the music. But I won't be silent while the music plays. I've seen what happens when companies follow their conscience. I've seen what happens when leaders refuse to bow to populism and instead rise to moral clarity. I've seen companies take a stand, not just for profit, but for people. And I'm telling you now, this is one of those moments, a defining moment, a moment where every CEO, every executive, every decision maker must look deep into their soul and ask, who are we without the world? Because let me tell you something about India, about the sons and daughters, the mothers and fathers, the quiet giants who sit in cubicles, writing the code that powers our dreams. They didn't ask to be political pawns. They didn't ask to be caught in a crossfire of ideology. They asked to contribute, to build. And when a president tries to erase their dignity with a single sentence, we must respond, not with silence, but with conviction. We must remember what leadership really means. It means standing up when it's easier to sit down. It means protecting what's right, even when it's not politically convenient. And if Trump thinks he can bully these tech titans into cutting off the world, he better know this. The world will not be cut off. Because here's what's happening beneath the surface. There are millions of young people watching, future engineers, future leaders, girls and boys in dorm rooms and dusty offices and bright classrooms across India, across Africa, across rural America, watching, waiting, wondering, do I belong in this future? Will they make space for me? And our answer must be clear, crystal clear. Yes, you belong. Not just because you're smart, not just because you're useful, but because your humanity, your perspective, your presence is sacred. Because this world, this new, interconnected, ever-changing, ever-growing world is better with you in it. That is the message every company must echo back to Trump. That is the power we hold in this moment to say, we will not shrink, we will not retreat, we will not let fear decide who gets to build tomorrow. And as we stand at the edge of a new technological dawn, as AI reshapes our industries and automation rewrites our economy, the last thing we need is a leader who wants to slam the brakes and throw people out of the car. We need visionaries who are willing to say, we will go forward and we will take everyone with us. So no, Mr. Trump, we will not stop hiring in India. We will not stop honoring global excellence. We will not stop believing in a future that's bigger than you, louder than you, brighter than you.
And if we truly believe this world belongs to all of us, then we must talk about responsibility, not just the kind written in mission statements or whispered in boardrooms, but the kind that defines legacy. Because when Donald Trump demands that Microsoft, Google, and the rest stop hiring in India, he's not just making a statement, he's issuing a challenge to corporate leadership, a challenge to our shared moral compass, and a challenge to the people who still believe in dignity over division. Let me be clear, this isn't just about outsourcing. It's about the soul of leadership. These companies, these global giants, don't just shape the markets, they shape mind. They influence how we live, how we work, how we dream. Every time they make a hiring decision, they aren't just moving numbers on a spreadsheet, they are deciding whose voices get to be part of the future. And when the pressure comes down, when a former president uses his platform to stoke fear, to whip up division, to pit one community against another, that's the moment when the real leaders must rise. Because leadership is not measured by how loudly you follow the polls, it is measured by how courageously you stand in the storm. And believe me, there's a storm coming, a storm of misinformation, a storm of nationalism, a storm of shrinking the world down to us versus them. But here's what I know to be true: storms are not the end. They are a test. They reveal who we are. And for the CEOs of Microsoft, Google, Amazon, and every other powerful name shaping tomorrow, this is your test. Will you bend to fear, or will you rise with purpose? I think about the responsibility these companies hold, and I think about the young leaders working within them, not just the ones at the top, but the ones building from the ground up. Engineers from Alabama and Andhra Pradesh, designers from Delhi and Detroit, analysts from Karachi and Kansas. They are not competing, they are collaborating. They are not enemies, they are teammates. And when someone like Trump says, stop hiring them, what he's really doing is drawing a red line through their humanity. So now we ask, who are we to obey that? Who are we to turn our back on what we know is right just to satisfy a loud voice clinging to outdated power? These companies have a responsibility not just to shareholders, not just to the next quarterly report, but to history. Because years from now, when our children and grandchildren ask what did they do when the pressure came, what did they stand for, we better be ready with an answer that makes them proud. And I want to speak directly now to those leaders. You've built empires that touch every corner of this planet. You have scaled heights once thought impossible. But your true power isn't in your balance sheet, it's in your choice. It's in how you respond when a man like Trump stands on a stage and dares to tell you that progress must stop at the border. You've seen firsthand what happens when you hire across oceans. You've seen what happens when you bring in diverse minds, fresh perspectives, different cultures. The products get better, the ideas get bolder, the missions get deeper. So don't let one man with a microphone and a fragile ego undo all of that. Do not retreat. Do not apologize for your global values, because what you are building isn't just software or search engines or platforms. You are building bridges, and bridges, my friends, are sacred. They bring us closer. They allow us to reach. They give us a way forward. And I say to every young professional watching, every student coding in the dark hours of the night, every parent sacrificing so their child can learn, hold your head high. You belong in this story. Don't let anyone tell you that your place in the future depends on where you were born. You were born of brilliance, of hope, of purpose, and that cannot be undone by a speech or a tweet or a policy stunt. This moment is bigger than Trump, bigger than politics. This is about what kind of world we choose to create, a world where companies act with conscience, a world where hiring is about who you are, not where you're from, a world where progress is shared, not hoarded. So to the leaders of our era, I say this with love, but with fire. Show us who you are. Show us that your vision is global, your heart is open, and your courage is real. Because your responsibility does not end at the water's edge. It begins with the belief that humanity is our greatest resource, and that resource must never be limited by borders. And if we get this right, if we answer this moment with integrity, we won't just be protecting jobs. We'll be protecting the very idea that innovation belongs to everyone, that dignity belongs to everyone, that the future, this incredible, unpredictable, shared future belongs to us all. And if we do get this right, if we choose dignity over division, if these companies lean into their global conscience instead of being bullied into cowardice, then we become part of something far greater than a political debate. We become architects of unity. But I need to tell you what happens when we get it wrong, when we give in to fear, when we allow loud voices to strip away the truth. Because if we listen to Donald Trump and we say yes, yes, let's stop hiring in India, then we are not protecting American confidence, we are destroying it. Because I need you to understand what this message really means. When Trump says stop hiring Indians, what he's really doing is telling Americans, you're not strong enough to compete. He's saying we can only win if we keep others out. And I don't care how many rallies he holds or how many flags he waves, that is not patriotism, that is weakness pretending to be strength. Because true confidence, real grounded, world-changing confidence doesn't need to attack others to feel tall. It doesn't need to close doors to feel safe. It doesn't look at Indian excellence and see danger. It sees partnership. It sees brilliance. It sees an opportunity to build something bigger than we could ever build alone. And here's the deeper truth. When you pit American workers against Indian talent, you're insulting both. You're telling Americans they can't rise unless someone else falls. And you're telling Indians their success is somehow shameful. And I know both of those things to be a lie, because I have sat in rooms with blue-collar workers in Ohio who just want to feel seen and valued again. I have met young coders in Mumbai who dream of changing the world one algorithm at a time. And when you listen, really listen, you hear the same hunger, the same hope, the same desire to matter. So why are we letting men like Trump convince us that we have to choose? Why are we letting fear rob us of unity? I'll tell you why. Because it's easier. It's easier to blame than to build. It's easier to divide than to develop. It's easier to get applause by punching down than by lifting people up. But let me remind you, ease has never built anything worth remembering. It is the hard, beautiful, messy work of collaboration that has moved this world forward. You want to talk about American greatness? Let's talk about it. Let's talk about the fact that the world has looked to America not just because of our might, but because of our mindset, our belief in freedom, in opportunity, in merit. And how do we throw that away now? How do we look the world in the eye and say, we no longer believe in you, we no longer want your minds, we no longer welcome your dreams? That is not America. That's fear dressed up in a suit and tie. And here's what gets me most. This isn't just theoretical. This message, this policy, this tone, it lands in the hearts of young people. It echoes in classrooms. It gets whispered in the hiring rooms of companies trying to figure out how safe it is to be inclusive now. That kind of fear doesn't just stifle hiring, it stifles hope. I have met too many first-generation college students from India who say, Miss Oprah, I just want to know if I'll be allowed to use my education. Too many young Americans who ask, if I'm not in tech, am I being left behind? And here's what I tell them every single time: you are not in competition with each other. You are the answer to each other. We don't need fewer minds. We need better systems. We need education that prepares American students to lead with their global peers, not against. We need investment in training, in apprenticeships, in technology hubs across this nation, not exclusion, not bans, not shutdowns. Trump's message, whether he admits it or not, isn't just about foreign workers. It's about shrinking possibility, about saying there's not enough to go around. And I reject that with every fiber of my being. There is enough work, enough opportunity, enough light for every single person willing to show up, work hard, and serve a purpose greater than their own ego. We cannot afford to let American confidence be built on the bones of someone else's dreams. That kind of success is not sustainable, it's not moral, and it's not who we are. So the next time someone tries to convince you that stopping hiring in India is the patriotic thing to do, I want you to ask them this: what are you so afraid of? Because I know this much: if you're truly confident in your people, in your nation, in your future, then you don't fear excellence. You partner with it, you nurture it, you rise with it. And that, my friends, is the future I believe in. A future where confidence is not rooted in isolation, but in inclusion. A future where American workers and Indian innovators don't just coexist, they co-create. That's not just good business. That's moral leadership, and that leads us into a deeper reckoning we must face, because this moment isn't just about Trump's fear or corporate responsibility. This moment is about how we choose to define progress in a world that is more connected than ever. Are we ready to build that world together, or are we still clinging to borders that no longer serve our highest good? And now, beloved, we stand at the edge of a hard truth. When policies are built on fear, they may win short applause, they may grab headlines, headlines, they may stroke egos, but they always fail the future, always, because fear is reactive, fear is short-sighted, fear does not dream, it divides, it looks at the world's beauty and brilliance and says, no, you're not welcome here, and that's exactly what Donald Trump is doing when he tells America's tech giants to stop hiring in India. He isn't offering a plan, he's broadcasting because people who have no vision for the future always try to drag you back into the past. And we've seen this story before, haven't we? In different times, in different languages, when people told women to sit down, when people told black folks to know their place, when people told immigrants they weren't good enough to build or belong. This is just another version of the same fear, a fear of sharing power, a fear of excellence that doesn't look like you, and a fear that your relevance depends on someone else's rejection. But what Trump doesn't understand is that the world doesn't stop spinning just because he shouts. Progress doesn't pause because he raises his fist. You cannot lead a 21st century world with a 19th century mindset, and when you build your policies on fear, you are not planting seeds, you are digging graves for creativity, for diversity, for human dignity. Every time Trump tries to legislate exclusion, he buries opportunity, he buries collaboration, he buries the very thing that made companies like Google and Microsoft and Amazon possible in the first place. Because those companies didn't rise in a vacuum, they didn't grow because one nation hoarded all the talent, they grew because the doors were open, they grew because they believed in a world where borders didn't stop brains from blooming. And if they bow to this fear now, if they follow Trump's command and turn away from Indian brilliance, they'll be turning away from the very formula that built their empires. And I want every young Indian dreamer to hear me right now loud and clear. Your brilliance is not your skill is not a weapon, your mind is not a crime. Don't you ever believe you are less because someone with a microphone says you are not American enough to be part of the future. And to every young American worker listening right now, you're not being left behind, you're being lied to. You are not losing because someone else is rising, you are losing because the people who were supposed to prepare you for the future failed to invest in you. You are being told to fear the wrong enemy. The enemy isn't the coder in Bangalore, it's the broken education system, it's the outdated training, it's the refusal to adapt, to evolve, to imagine a better way. But Donald Trump won't talk about that because fear is easier to sell than reform, division is easier to ignite than unity, and shouting stop hiring in India will get him cheers at a rally, but it won't get a single American trained in cybersecurity, it won't build a single innovation hub in the Midwest, it won't create one damn internship for a kid in Detroit, because fear doesn't build anything. And I want our leaders, true leaders, to stop being silent when fear is passed off as policy. I want CEOs to stop issuing neutral statements when exclusion is being shouted from the podium, because neutrality in the face of fear is complicity. Silence in the face of injustice is surrender. Now is the time to lead with courage. Now is the time to speak not just about inclusion, but to act on it. If your company was built on global collaboration, then fight for it. If your products were made better by Indian minds, then honor them. Don't wait for fear to win before you find your voice. And I say this from a place of knowing. I have seen what happens when fear-based leadership takes hold. I have seen the families torn apart. I have seen the workers deported. I have seen the innovators who leave because they don't feel safe. And when they go, we don't just lose their labor, we lose their love, their loyalty, their limitless potential. So I ask you, who do we become if we let that happen? Because the future is coming, and it will not wait. It will not slow down for wall. It will not dim itself because a man with a platform feels threatened. The future is fast. The future is diverse. The future is borderless. And if we want to be part of it, not left behind by it, then we must reject fear at every turn. We must build policies on purpose, not pan and truth, not tactics, on vision, not volume, because while fear shouts, love builds. While fear shrinks, faith expands. While fear isolates, truth unites. And that's the road we have to walk now, not just for the sake of India, not just for the sake of America, but for the very soul of this interconnected world we share. And now we arrive at the heart of it all, the deeper truth behind Trump's warning to Google, Microsoft, and every tech giant to stop hiring in India. because beneath the noise, the nationalism, the finger pointing, and the red hats, there is something more dangerous, more haunting, more desperate, a man trying to rewrite the American identity with bitterness instead of brilliance. Let's call it what it is. This is not about it's not about protecting the American worker. It's about control. It's about ego. It's about a man who built his power by selling the illusion that someone else has to lose for you to win. It's someone else's accent, someone else's name, someone else's skin, someone else's talent is the reason you feel stuck in life. And let me tell you something, baby, that lie has worn 1,000 faces in American history, but it's still the same lie, and Trump is repeating it louder than ever when he targets Indian professionals, engineers, developers, scientists, dreamers. He is not fixing a broken system. He's feeding the brokenness. He's saying, let's stop the future from flowing into this country so we can cling to a past that no longer serves us. But here's the truth he doesn't want you to know. India isn't the threat. India is the mirror. And when we look into that mirror, we see a nation investing in its youth. We see a country pouring into its digital economy. We see a rising global force that has figured out what America once did, that greatness comes from unlocking minds, not locking borders, and that terrifies him. That terrifies anyone who profits from division, because they know that the minute Americans stop blaming others and start demanding better from their own leaders, that's the minute the whole game changes. You want to talk about why American workers are struggling. It's not because someone in Hyderabad wrote a line of code. It's because too many kids in Cleveland never got the computer to learn on in the first place. It's because rural schools are underfunded, because community colleges are under pressure, because we glorify billionaires but don't pay teachers. But blaming India, that's easy, that's lazy. That's cruel, because let me ask you, where does that road lead? If we start cutting off collaboration, shutting down shared progress, isolating ourselves in the name of patriotism, who do we become? Do we really want a country where engineers are judged by their birthplace, where companies are punished for choosing the best minds regardless of where they come from, where fear decides who gets to build the future? Because if that's the America Trump is selling, then I don't want to buy it, and I know you don't either. Because deep down we all know that greatness is not a zero-sum game, that when India rises, we don't fall. When global talent expands, we don't shrink. We grow by growing together. That's the truth they can't tweet. That's the truth they're afraid of. And to every tech leader listening, this is your moment. Don't just issue a press release. Don't hide behind neutral language. If your company has thrived because of global minds, then speak it, defend it, protect it. Let the world know that your innovation is built on collaboration, not nationalism, that your workforce is a tapestry, not a fortress, that the future is diverse, and damn it, you are proud of that. And to the young people watching this unfold, whether you're in California or Chennai, in Texas or Tamil Nadu, I want you to understand something deep in your bones. Your dream is valid, your voice is needed, your brilliance belongs. Don't let any politician, any headline, any border convince you otherwise. And let me speak now to the soul of America, to that tired, yearning, hopeful spirit that still believes in something bigger than flags and fences. We are better than this. We are stronger than this rhetoric. We are braver than this fear, and we must rise together. This moment, this warning from Trump, it is not the end. It is a test. It is a question the universe is asking us. What kind of world are you willing to fight for? Because the easy answer is fear, but the real answer, the hard, honest, liberating answer, is faith. Faith that we can build a future that is both fair and free. Faith that borders don't have to mean barriers. Faith that technology, talent, and trust can coexist. We've come too far to turn back now. So let this be the moment where we say no to fear, no to division, no to policies that punish progress, and yes to courage, yes to inclusion, yes to India, yes to America, yes to every mind that dares to dream beyond boundaries. Because that's how the future is built, not with walls, but with bridges. And we, beloved, were born to build.